Welcome back once again, friends. In this video, we are going to look at something very interesting. We have looked at the sep and the end in the print statement in Python prior to this. In this video, we're going to look at something called escape characters, which will allow us to print things which are a little bit interesting, let's say. So it's these are not words to be printed, but these are things which usually you do from the keyboard, for instance. We'll see how these can be used to make some interesting effects in the print statement, right? Now, first question that comes up is, what exactly do we mean by escape characters? So it's kind of very simple. Escape characters are these interesting, let's say, characters which we enter by always putting a backslash and then something, right? So for example, we can put a backslash n to get a new line, and if we did, let's say, print hello world separated a new line, then we are going to get a new line between hello and world, because remember, separation does what goes in between these two, right? Similarly, we have backslash r, backslash t, backslash f, backslash b, and so on and so forth, right? Now, one important point, and I want to highlight this to everybody who's watching this: please do not try to blindly memorize these, because it's very, it's not very fruitful to just try and memorize. Instead, the best way is to just play around with these, try these different values for the sep and the end, as we have seen before, and try to understand what's going on. Because the more you use this, the more you will find that this is actually not that hard. But if you try to memorize, you're bound to get confused and probably frustrated, right? So let's not memorize, but let's just go back to our program that we had been writing. Remember, we have a very simple program going. I try to print hello player, how are you? And in this case, I'm giving separation of 3 stars and end of, let's say, these three, let's say, those 3 slashes, right? So if I did this, I ask Vineet, and I get this line, hello star 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 Vineet. Oh, by mistake, I put an extra bracket here. That's why player became Vineet with the bracket. 3 stars, how are you? And then in the end, I get these three, right? Now remember, I told you that a new line can be created by putting a separation of, say, backslash n, right? So let's just see that. Let's see what happens if I give backslash n, right? Now notice here, both the backslash as well as the n has to be inside quotations, right? So if I, for example, let's say, wrote something like this, it's probably going to lead me into an error. Let's just see that once. If it does lead me to error, it does, right, as we had expected, right? So I must make sure that the entire backslash and n is inside the quotations. Quotations are completed, there's a comma provided, and all of that. So if I do that, now it's going to be very interesting, because I'm going to be inserting a new line between all the three elements of this things that I'm printing. So remember what happened here. The first print is hello player, how are you? That is this print, hello Vineet, how are you? Next time I printed hello, and I've given a step of backslash n, which means in between all these three, there's a backslash n being put. Backslash n manifests itself as a new line, as though I clicked enter on my computer. So I printed hello, then I printed Vineet, then I give one more backslash n, I printed how are you? Again, how are you? Nothing. I mean, the entire string got printed, because remember, this entire thing is being ported here. But between hello, Vineet, and how are you, I got a backslash n, and end was, of course, these three lines, right? So that is backslash n. Let's just try backslash t. Backslash t means a horizontal tab. I am going to get these three separated by like as though I am pressing the tab character on my keyboard, right? So again, I go and say Vineet, and notice what happens. I got hello Vineet, how are you? That's the first one, the basic one. But because of separation of backslash t, I got hello, a tab, Vineet, I got another tab, and then how are you? That this tab doesn't look that big, but there is indeed a tab in between those two, right? Now I can actually go and try, let's say, the next one, which is, like I said, let's say backslash b. Now backslash b is very interesting, because what it will do is that it's going to insert a backspace between each of these each of these letters, right? So each of these phrases, let's say. Now to see this in action, let's say I run this, I go and say, what's your name? I say Vineet. Notice what happened. It printed hello and then put a backslash. So what it did is that, imagine writing something in the keyboard, hello and then backslash. It removes the o, so it remains hell. It's a little bit funny actually. It removes the last letter of my name, Vineet. Instead it puts Vinny, and then how are you, right? So that's backslash b, because in between separation there was a backslash. Like I said, the table I had shown you in the beginning, the best way is to just try and play with this, and you will understand a lot of things here, right? Let's try another one, which is the backslash r, right? Now backslash r is interesting, because what it does is that it basically brings the cursor back to the beginning of the line without giving a new line. So remember, backslash n gave a new line, and then the cursor was back in the front. But here what's going to happen is that I'm going to write hello, bring the cursor back to the beginning, write my player name, which is Vineet, and then bring it back. So how are you? So in fact, when I do all this, I'm going to see only, let's just see for ourselves, I say, okay, I wrote my name a little bit wrongly, but notice what happened. I saw only how are you, because it printed hello, it did a backslash r, so it removed that. It printed player, it did a backslash r once again, and then finally it just printed how are you, and then in the end I had these, right? Let's take one more look at, let's say, what is called backslash v. Right now, backslash v is basically like a vertical tab. This is actually interesting because what's going to happen is I say, my name is Vineet. Notice how it prints this, right? So hello Vineet, how are you? That's the first one. Next one, it prints hello. It gives a vertical tab, which means I come down exactly on the same position and I start typing from here. I write Vineet, I come down exactly and I just write here vertically down and I start writing from here, right? Now, the interesting part is that you can actually combine these things, right? So for example, I can give, let's say backslash n backslash t. Let's say now what's going to happen here is that on every line, at the end of hello, I'm going to print a new line. Then I'm going to give a tab because it's backslash n backslash t. Then I'll print this. I'll print Vineet. I'll come back to the next line, give a tab again, and then print how are you. So what's going to happen here? Let's just see this for ourselves. Like I said, that's the best way to learn. See for yourself what's going on. So I say Vineet, and notice what happened here was hello backslash n backslash t, the tab. Vineet backslash n, next line backslash t, and then how are you. In fact, you can do lots of things. Let's say I go and introduce to this a backslash v as well, right? So what's going to happen here is that backslash n backslash t, and then vertically down from there, right? So there's going to be line created in between these, right? So let's say what's your name? I say Vineet, and this time I'm getting extra spaces created because of this vertical v here, right? So again backslash t, and then I come down here, right? So you can just try with this, basically just enjoy this whole process. Lots of things can be done with this, and you're going to have a lot of fun, right? But let's just go back to this, say backslash n, or say two of these. Let's say two of these will basically cause two new lines to appear between the names, between each part. So I get hello, two backslash n's, Vineet, two backslash n's, and then how are you, right? So notice how I'm able to get these escape characters to do certain things on my screen using the sep value, right? Now let's change our attention and focus on the end. Remember that when I did not give anything in the end, I always had a next line created, right? But let's just try one thing here. I'm giving an end of, let's say, three forward slashes over here. Let's say I give the same exact thing once again, right? So or maybe I'll give something different so it becomes easier to understand. So let's say I'm going to say hello, let's say and this, maybe I'll just give one string here, right? This is so cool. Let's say this is so cool. So notice this is just one string which will just get printed, but I want you to see where this gets printed, right? So if I ran this command, if I ran this code, so it asks me what's my name. I'll say my name is Vineet. It says hello Vineet, how are you? That's the first print, but remember there was no end given here, so it gave a new line. Next it printed all this. So hello player, how are you? There was separation of two backslash n's, so two gaps between this. There was an end of these three, but notice now my this is so cool got printed on the same exact line as this. Now why did this happen? Because this happened because when I'm giving an end statement, it's no longer taking new line as the default, right? Because the default of new line has been overwritten. I'm giving it a lot of space. I mean, this forward slash is n, but I'm not telling it to insert a new line, right? No problem. I can fix that quite easily by going and let's say putting here in the end statement, say a backslash n, right? Now what's going to happen now is that the same exact code is going to work a little bit differently. So I'm going to say, notice here it says how are you, three forward slashes, but this time round this line here gets printed on a new line, right? Now again, in case you're wondering that I should only give backslash n as the new line, that's as the ending line, that's not true. I could in fact give, for example, I could give, let's say, backslash v as the ending character, right? So in this case what's going to happen is that, remember, end applies to the end of the string, right? So if I say, let's say I say this, what happened is that it printed this statement, hello Vineet, how are you? In the end it gave a vertical tab and then it printed this is so cool, right? So you can imagine that there's lots and lots of things you can do with this, but the best method of doing this is with practice, right? Notice also that in the end, when I say this is so cool, in fact a new line has already been created for me. That's because if I don't give any end, there is a new line created, right? And this brings me to a very interesting point, that if I just gave, say, print statements, so maybe between so let me just try this, right? So I'll give, say, a bunch of print statements, and then I'll go and print something, print say one more, and then say print I am, I enjoy this. So now if I do this, right, if I do this, what I expect is that because I'm not giving any input, so it's like saying an empty say in Scratch. So there's nothing to be printed on the screen. But remember, the default was a backslash n. So this means that I'm going to end up creating 3 new lines between this is so cool and I enjoy this. And this is powerful because it allows you to create gaps nicely in your in the output screen. So if I did this, notice it says this is so cool. Remember, the end here was backslash v. So I got this down here. Then there were 3 lines created, and then I get this I enjoy this, exactly what I had written here got printed on the screen here, right? So the point is, by creating prints which are empty, I can create this new line character, right? So play with this. Do not try to memorize these, just play with this, and you're going to have a lot of fun. The list of these commands are available on the internet. They're also available, like I said, you can see it here. You can available from our website as well, right? So you can look at this class notes. You have this website. But once again, try playing around. Do not try to memorize, and try to understand what's going on. It's going to be a lot of fun. Take care. Thank you so much. Bye bye.